Hello, and thank you for clicking on the video. Welcome to another Off Meta with the Moose experimentation video. In this one, I'm going to be going over what's a common problem for the Skaven. Skaven are considered slightly an underpowered faction, one that's not doing too well in the current meta, and really haven't been doing too well for quite some time. So I've really been trying to experiment with them, see what I can get to work. And a common issue with the Skaven is they have these incredibly powerful weapons teams. If you've seen some of my other videos playing with the rats, I've been trying to get these to work. And they have incredibly high damage output, but they're incredibly fragile. Like if you take a look at these Warplock Giselles, they only have about 4,000 HP, really low melee defense, so any shooting, magic, or if a melee unit gets on top of these things for really any amount of time, they are cooked. So I've been trying to come up with schemes to protect these weapons teams, and there's a variety of different matchups. I mean, if you go to the race panel, I think there's like 25 factions you have to account for when playing an army. But really, one of the biggest issues I think for Skaven is going against armies that have a air force, that is flying units that can swoop in and take out your weapons teams and shut them down. So I've come up with a bit of a build here. This is kind of a general setup. This one specifically is against Khorne, where I can make weapons teams work. And there's a lot going on, so I figured I'd just start in the army building screen here and kind of go over some of the pieces behind this. So it starts with the Master Assassin. This guy isn't very anti-air specific. He's just generally quite nice for weapons teams, and the aspects that make him good for like a weapons team build are stock. He's going to be invisible until your opponents get pretty close. So that means if your opponent has some type of Lord sniping ability, which is very good against Skaven because of Skaven's overall low leadership, makes sense. They're rats. Rats are generally quite frightened creatures, but they make up for it in numbers. So you need a Lord that is going to be resilient to snipe attempts. So having just stock and being invisible, you can go hide him in the corner if he ever gets too hurt, and your opponent will never find him. So he does quite well in that regard. Looming Dread is what makes him good as a shooting kind of synergizing Lord. This ability, you pop it on an enemy Lord or hero, and it slows them down by almost half and lowers their missile resistance if they have any, which is really nice. Sacred Banner of the Horned Rat is also pretty good into those kind of flying diving units. Those flying diving units are units like Furies. If we take a look at the Slaanesh roster, down here the Chaos Fury is a flying swarming unit, does great melee attack and can come in from the top, but they do have low leadership, and they are a demon unit. And demon units, when their leadership gets below 0, they start to disintegrate, which is, if you know the lore, demons come from like the warp, like this other dimension, and when they get kind of beat up, they get sent back into the warp. So that leadership debuff does help in that regard. Everything adds up. So -8 isn't bad. It's a large radius, so you can keep these guys kind of in the backfield where those Furies are going to land. The Eshin Sorcerer is crucial for the anti-air element, and that is because of really everything that it brings. The Warp Stars, for whatever reason, this spell, it has something to do, people have theorized about why, but it's very good against small flying units like those Furies. It will usually cut them down to about half, even Khorne Furies, which have a spell resist, if we can see that, of 35% will still get nearly half healthed by this spell. It just does tremendous amounts of damage. So having that when those Furies are coming in initially, it will cut one down to about half, which really just starts you off really well for dealing with the rest of that swarm that's going to come and try and shut down all your gun units. Veil of Shadows is an interesting one. I think this is my real tinfoil hat. And credit goes to a couple other players. I'll link their names down in the description of the video, I would try to remember their gamer tags, but gamer tags often have numbers and symbols and just pronunciations that no one will ever know but the person who came up with them, so I'm not going to try to say them here. But other people kind of came up with this idea, and I've been experimenting with it. But this spell, all it does is pushes units away from the center. It doesn't do damage, doesn't have any effects, but that's, well, as I'll show in a video coming up here of a replay of a game, it's very effective at protecting gun units. Fear of RMR is, I think, the single biggest leadership debuff in the game. It has one-time use, so that's kind of the downside of it, but this is an awesome ability. I love it so much, and it's really great for peeling off air units because, like I mentioned, that disintegrating, and then if it's a flying unit for some other faction, like let's say Dark Elves, if we can find them, they have these harpies who also have low leadership. It's kind of a common theme with these light flying swarming units that they have low leadership. So regardless, it's going to be good on a flying unit whether they're disintegrating or not. The Plague Priest isn't very anti-air, not really here for that. He's more of a roadblock. Vermintide is a nice cheap summon ability, and in this game plan I'm not really summoning in any more units like Clan Rats or Skaven Slaves, as you can see. So this guy's going to just be producing rats from the Under Empire just to kind of tie the infantry up while I'm dealing with those flying units. A bunch of Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats to hold the line, and then this catapult here and this Warplock Jezzail, this will change which ones I bring depending on the matchup, but these are kind of the bait. These weapons will be applying pressure to my opponent, because in Domination there's 3 objectives, and typically how it works is if you own 2 objectives, you're going to win on, kind of starts a timer, you're going to win on objectives, so your opponent has to come and kick you off at least one of those objectives. So Skaven, you'll usually be pretty tight formation on one objective, but with the catapult and the sniper rifle Jezzails, you'll apply pressure to your opponent to where they have to move off the objective or attack you, and then you can kind of force an engagement. So that'll force them to come to you. The Brood Horror, I'm continually starting to think is the most underrated unit on the Skaven roster. I'm usually getting like double this guy's gold value back in the game. He's just fantastic. Very fast, really high charge bonus. Frenzy boosts the damage output, so all these stats are much higher actually once you load into the game. And just does a ton of work, this guy. He gets beat up, you run him off to hide or heal for a while, but he kind of munches on enemy lords and applies terror. And a Doomflayer, also very important for the anti-air aspect. You sit this guy in your backfield. It is a chariot unit, and chariot units have bonus versus infantry, and those small flying units are infantry type. So this guy kind of waits for those to land and then jumps on top of them. So out of reserves, the 2 most important units here are these 2 rattling guns. So rattling guns are kind of like machine gun, Gatling guns. I mean, change the R to a G and you've got what they are. They're kind of like akin to like a Warhammer 40k sci-fi unit, if any of you are familiar with the other Warhammer universe. They shoot laser Gatling beams. They do a ton of damage. They apply suppression, which slows enemy units. One of them has magic damage, which is important against the Furies. And something a little different I do with these guys is the ROR, you can see, has these gold chevrons and is much more expensive than the 800 gold base one. Those gold chevrons, they increase the accuracy and the reload skill of this unit, which I think is incredibly important. That accuracy and reload skill. These guys are, again, so fragile that really every volley you get off needs to hit, needs to do damage. So if you get an extra volley off before something gets to you, I mean, that could be the difference between this unit living or dying. So what I've done is the ROR kind of comes at a discount for its gold chevrons. Normally you have to pay gold for them, like so. I've brought in a second regular rattling gun, and I have upgraded it with gold chevrons to just 2 tiers below the ROR. And you can see the stats are pretty comparable still. The reload skill is pretty high, 4.3 versus 4.1. And then if we go to the base, it's 5.0. So I've upgraded a base rattling gun to gold chevrons to bring it on. That is 245 gold more, just like the cost of a Skaven slave or almost a clan rat. But I think that's really important. These guys are going to come out of reserves and try to blast into these air units, so they really need to get a lot of damage off quick. Night Runners are a great summon into clearing out air units. They throw little ninja darts, and they have Vanguard, which is really important, so they'll be able to get into that fight quickly. Eshin Triads, also great for that. If there's large units swarming the backfield, these guys will be able to Vanguard in there. Wolf Rats are also huge for peeling off Furies. These guys do a lot of damage. They're kind of like a glass cannon light that is no AP damage attack, but they're so small, they're models, that they can get in a lot on their charge and do a lot of damage. Rat Ogres, again, kind of a fast response unit and another unit of Doom players. Okay, here we are diving into the action. In this matchup, I'll be playing against Khorne. I thought this was going to be a really good example for trying out these methods to defend against air units and swarms, because Khorne kind of is the swarm faction. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. These guys don't really mess around with shooting. They don't do magic at all. They are just coming at you all day, every day, trying to smack you in the face. Unga bunga is style is the term Turin, the goat of Warhammer casting, uses to describe that sort of thing. These guys are rushing at you and they're coming for you. My opponent brought the Skull Taker as their lord. He is kind of the meta for Khorne right now. He does insane damage on his chariot, so he's really good. Normally chariots are good against infantry, but he's just good against everything, and he has healing somewhere in there. Yeah, Gore Feast, which is just, you always want healing on a lord if you can take it. Skyla Fangrim, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, just an aggressive melee lord. And for myself, I already went over the build. It's the same as what we just saw. So I'm going to be setting up my guns and preparing for the rush coming in. You can see one Fury unit is already coming in, so my opponent setting up for the surround. And I just played this opponent the game before, so they knew what they were getting into. They knew the guns were coming. They knew they were going to need to get some pressure and set up a surround. So this was no gimmick. So my bait, as I called it, the Plague Claw Catapult, already getting off some great damage. This is why I like this guy a lot more than the ROR Mortars. They're commonly referred to as like the one weapons team unit you should take for Skaven. They do a lot more damage than this, but the Plague Claw Catapult is like not half the price, but close to half the price, and it does good damage. And I mean, it has more HP. These catapults are easier to protect than the mortars. Okay, my opponent's summoning out a second Fury unit in the woods here. We can see the hero squad and some more infantry enveloping my army, getting ready for the surround. So I send out my little distraction rat with his little contamination stick. He's going to be summoning out some rats from the Under Empire just to tie up units and slow them down while my guns go to work. Here I'm putting my Giselles onto these Furies, and the catapults are shooting away. We're just trying to take out these infantry while we have time. We're probably going to get a terror route there on those Chaos Warriors of Khorne, which is really nice. But the flying units come in, Warp Stars going down, and you can see doing tremendous damage, almost half health. And here's the Veil of Shadows going down. So this is that swirly ability. I'm casting it on the catapult right before the Chaos Fury shows up. And normally this catapult would just stop existing right now. The damage would be tremendous. But you can see that the Furies are kind of just being slowly pushed away. Like these guys they so desperately want to attack these little soft rats. But that little vortex is kind of pushing them to the outside while they get chewed up by these other clan rats. And then I'm going to summon in a unit of rattling guns on top to apply pressure, and you can see that unit is gone. Meanwhile, the other Chaos Fury dove on top of the Warplock Giselles. I couldn't cast Veil of Shadows because I'd already used it, but I do use the Fear of Aramar on these guys, lowering their leadership, and then I get my Lord into proximity, so the leadership of these Furies is going to tank and is going to start disintegrating. You can can see these guys have insanely low leadership between the damage, the Fear of RMR, the My Lord's ability, and they're getting attacked by the Doom Flayers. So those Furies are going to disintegrate just about instantly, and my guns are going to be able to pull back. So now my lines are completely tied up. There is chaos everywhere, quite literally, no pun intended. Right now there's a tremendous amount of pressure. Summoning another unit of clan rats. My opponent wisely just avoids them and looks to be going around the flank to get to the guns. So I'm trying to move my guns into position here. The Jezzails are trying to fire on the enemy lord, but this is a bit of a miss micro here, a little late on the shooting, and I have no tricks anymore left in my bag to stop this. So they are going to take a full charge, and you can see how much damage weapons teams take when they do not have something to protect them. I summon in my next unit of rattling guns. This is the gold chevron one, and I do get a unit of wolf rats in there, and a lot of damage is coming in. So these teeth breakers, they might be able to live. They have incredibly low HP at the moment, but they might be able to come back. Meanwhile, in the middle, my opponent's forcing the Skull Taker around. He heals, so you can kind of just chuck him into things. But my little goon squad of rats, we have the Brood Horror. You can see his stats now are quite nice. The Eshin Sorcerer, Master Assassin. There's lowered armor on this guy. It is still insanely high though, so every little swing counts, and we're slowly working down to that guy. Meanwhile, my lines, you can see the summoned unit back here of Clan Rats doing nicely to tie things up, and the lines are holding, if not doing well. Sorticorn taking out a unit there, and we do clear off that unit of Flesh Hounds. They were routed off. Teeth Breakers might come back. Jezzails are still online up there, and we have a new unit of rattling guns, and the catapult really has taken no damage. And it's going to have some line of sight issues with this hill shooting, but also will be applying its leadership debuff and getting the occasional shot through, like you can see there. So my opponent is swarming in again, sending in a unit of Flesh Hounds around the flank and another unit of Furies, a second unit summoned in again back there. I am focusing my guns on the enemy lord, so this is really what I want to get damage on. I cast Veil of Shadows, bringing down to protect. I see two units coming in. Wolf Rat's going to tie up half of that unit, and you can see here that these Flesh Hounds, again, are running into that barrier. Two were able to make it through, not really sure what that is about, but for the most part, they were pushed back. Unit of Furies is going to try to finish them off, and a little mistake here, I'm not quite in the center of the vortex, so half my unit will get hit by the Furies, and I believe I was not in guard mode for shooting, so I am going to be in melee instead of shooting with these rats, which is a mistake, but they're kind of doing some shots still into those wolfhounds. That might just be the melee attack animation, not sure. But this other unit of rattling guns that came back is doing some covering fire. Rat Ogre's coming in. It's a little late, but if I hadn't used Veil, these Furies and Flesh Hounds would have easily killed this rattling gun unit, and they would have been completely out of commission. But they'll still be a little under half health, it looks like, and still mostly operational. We have in the front, my opponent maybe sends Skull Taker a little too aggressively and is going to get tied up now. Furies dove in to try and save him, but the rattling guns are back online, and this is what you bring them for. That's tremendous damage coming in, even through the healing. And the other one will be online here in a moment, and that's going to take out my enemy lord and give me a significant advantage in this game. So now the rattling guns are both online. The Jezzails here, I'm pulling back. They had some line of sight issues. Should have pulled him back sooner, but things are going to start looking really good at this point because my opponent, without any Furies on hand or in their lord down, is going to start to suffer a lot. The guns are going to go on to my opponent's last single entity and are going to take him out, and from here on out I have an advantage. I have plenty of time to get a second objective back. Held on to my home objective, which was really nice, and that's going to kind of put things in my favor for the rest of the game. Gun units now fully operational, gonna just farm value away, catapult, putting damage and leadership debuffs into various units, and that's going to be game. We could fast forward here, but the results at this point are pretty clear. Okay, so that's going to be typically how you want to defend against Air Force. The Veil of Shadows kept these units alive really solidly. Warplock Jezzails, they didn't have any Veil protection, but there's only so many Furies my opponent can throw at different units. Now, my opponent only brought a couple Fury units and Dog units. I think the next time they played, they would probably bring like 4, try to summon them all at once. But the same principles apply. You really want to keep these Teeth Breakers in reserve and these rattling guns in reserves until that Fury attack comes, and they can kind of come out of reserves and peel things off of your army. You don't want to have all your guns sitting and say on this objective where they can get swarmed at once. You just want those bait weapons teams units out to kind of force your opponent to make the first move. If we look at the value here, we have about 1,000 on that unit of rattling guns. Not quite as many on the Teeth Breakers, but they took a lot of damage. Sales did okay, and Plague Plot Catapult is doing okay, and these guys would still be able to accrue value through the rest of the game. So if anyone thinks this is a cool idea or has any recommendations, I know that if several players might be watching who came up with a lot of these concepts and appreciate them for their theory crafting. That's going to be the video. This was just a quick battle match, so I'm hoping to get some experimental games against some tournament players here in the near future to see if I can get some wins against people who maybe like play Khorne full time, like if they're a Khorne main or a Nurgle main. So if anyone sees this and wants to try a game into this, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.